It's pretty wild to think about. This is a platform that completely reshaped how we talk to each other, how we get our news, and maybe even how we think about ourselves. But the story of Facebook, well, it's really a tale of two sides. This incredible, world-spanning connection and some really deep controversy. So let's get into it.
To really wrap your head around the scale we're talking about, just look at this number, 3.04 billion. And that's not some grand total over the years. That is how many people use Facebook every single month. It's basically a digital nation with a population bigger than any country on Earth. Just staggering.
And that really brings us to the core question, right? How on earth did a project cooked up in a Harvard dorm room explode into a global superpower, a force that connects, and yeah, sometimes divides, the entire planet? So how did we get here? Let's trace that journey.
To really get to the bottom of Facebook's power and all its problems today, we have to rewind all the way back to the beginning, to that Harvard dorm room in the early 2000s.
And look, the rise was just meteoric. It all kicked off in 2003 with something called FaceMash, a pretty controversial little project. A year later, the Facebook launches, but it's just for Harvard kids. The real game changer, though, came in 2006. The floodgates opened to anyone over 13. And from there, it just exploded. By 2012, it wasn't just a social site anymore. It was a publicly traded company, and it was already snatching up future giants like Instagram. That move right there, that basically locked in its dominance for the next decade.
Okay, so the doors are now open to the whole world. What's next? Well, Facebook's next big challenge was to build the tools that would not only keep people on the platform, but make it a totally essential part of their daily lives.
And let me tell you, their ambition was global from the get-go. This was never just going to be an American thing. By pouring resources into making the platform available in over 100 languages, they basically tore down one of the biggest walls to global growth. And that's how it really became the world's digital town square.
But the real game changer? That was the news feed. I mean, before this, you had to actually go to people's profiles to see what was new. Suddenly, you weren't hunting for updates. An algorithm was spoon-feeding you this constant personalized stream of content. Its whole purpose was to keep you scrolling, and man, did it work. It fundamentally changed how we get our information.
Then, in 2009, they gave us this incredibly simple little icon, the like button. And wow, was it revolutionary. It gave us this super easy, frictionless way to interact. But more importantly, it gave Facebook a constant, massive river of data. Every single time you clicked it, you were teaching the algorithm what you enjoyed, what you cared about, and, ultimately, what it could sell to you.
So what was the result of all this? Well, as everyone started living on their phones, Facebook didn't just tag along. It led the charge. Think about this. By the end of the 2010s, it was the single most downloaded mobile app of the entire decade. It basically cemented its spot right at the center of our digital lives.
Look, connecting the world sounds great on a poster, but it doesn't pay the bills, right? A service this huge can't actually be free. So, who's paying for it all? And this is where the story starts to get a lot more complicated.
See, for you and me, the deal seems simple. It's this free tool we use to connect with people. But behind the curtain, what it really is one of the most sophisticated advertising machines ever created. And the fuel for that engine? It's all the personal information we're constantly sharing, clicking, and liking. And you gotta understand, this data collection goes way, way beyond just what you post on your own profile. Get this, the concept of a shadow profile. This means that even if you've sworn off Facebook, never made an account, chances are they've still got a file on you. It's built from things like your friends uploading their phone contacts, or from you just visiting a website that happens to have a Facebook like button on it. It's this huge, invisible web of data. So you have this unimaginable amount of data and this incredible power. I mean, a collision was bound to happen, right? The very platform that was built to bring people together soon became the stage for some of the biggest crises of trust of the digital age.
And of course, you can't talk about Facebook's crises without talking about the big one, Cambridge Analytica. This was the moment it all came crashing down for a lot of people. Data from as many as 87 million users have been improperly harvested. But this wasn't just some data leak. It was used to build these incredibly detailed psychological profiles, all designed to influence voters. The backlash was, as you can imagine, immense. It ended with a record-breaking $5 billion fine and a public apology from Mark Zuckerberg for what he called a major breach of trust.
But here's the thing. The warnings weren't just coming from outside the company anymore.
In 2021, the world was glued to the testimony of Frances Haugen, a former Facebook employee turned whistleblower. And she came with receipts, the company's own internal research. Her core message was devastating. Facebook knew its products were causing harm, especially to teens, but it consistently chose to prioritize profits over people.
So how did Zuckerberg respond? Well, he pivoted. Hard. Instead of getting into the weeds on the specific harms, he started calling for government regulation. His argument was that a private company shouldn't have to make these huge decisions about society all on its own. It was a really smart strategic move, repositioning Facebook not as the villain, but as a willing partner in finding a solution.
When you step back and look at all this, you start to see a clear pattern, don't you? This isn't about one oopsie or one bad apple. The problems are systemic. They seem to be woven right into the fabric of the platform, from huge privacy scandals like Cambridge Analytica to the never-ending battle against misinformation to its role in political manipulation.
Okay, so after all that, where does a company facing this much heat even go from here? Let's take a look at the massive pivot Facebook is trying to pull off and the huge unanswered questions that are still hanging in the air. Well, the biggest clue about their new direction came from the name change. Remember that? In 2021, Facebook, the company, became Meta. This was basically them planting a flag, telling the world that their future isn't just about social media anymore. It's about building the metaverse, this immersive virtual reality version of the internet.
But here's the catch. While they're busy building for the future, there's a real problem in the here and now. The data is pretty clear that younger users are leaving the main Facebook Blue app in droves. Sure, many are just moving over to Instagram, which Meta also owns, but that decline is a huge red flag. It really helps you understand why they're betting the farm on the metaverse. They're desperately searching for the next generation.
And all of this leaves us with one final massive question. When a single platform connects nearly half of all humans on the planet, who's ultimately responsible for what happens there? Is it the company? Is it us, the users? Or is it the governments that are supposed to regulate it? Figuring that out? Well, that might just be one of the biggest challenges of our time.